All right. So in the on-premise environment, we are going to set up a couple of things. Like we need to have at least two servers. One holds the Active Directory domain services role, and we can also create one more machine which holds the Azure AD Connect. But what we are going to do is we are going to set up AD and Azure AD Connect on the same server itself. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up one VNet. And within the VNet, I'm going to have one subnet. Let's say this is my on-premise environment. And this is going to be my VNet or network, I would say. And this is going to be my subnet. Subnet 1. And within the subnet, I'm going to deploy my Active Directory domain services. And in future, I'm going to deploy another subnet. Okay, and within the subnet, I'm going to deploy the virtual machines, which we call it as a VDI instances. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do it in today's session. Once we set up this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to synchronize this to Azure AD. So Azure AD is part of our Azure subscription. So let us assume this is your Azure subscription. And within this, you have your Azure AD, and you have your subscription, and you will have your resources created and resource groups created. And within that, you're going to create your instances, right? So what we do is we are going to give access to the users once they synchronize to Azure AD. So how the sync is happening is from on-premises AD to Azure AD. So we are going to use the Azure AD Connect. And I'm going to put this as a domain controller DC, and we'll also call this as a AAD Connect service server. Okay, since I don't have the on-premise environment, so as I said yesterday, I'm going to use Azure service, Azure subscription, and deploy this environment and just treating this as a on-premises environment. So this is what we are going to do it in today's session. I have some throat pain, so there's some delay sometimes. Excuse me for that, guys. Okay, so this is the agenda for today's session. And let me just put a couple of values here. This is going to be your Azure environment. And this is going to be your subscriptions, MCT subscription. Okay, and this is where you're going to create your resources. Any questions with respect to this lab? Are we clear with this lab?
Yeah, Kamal, we are clear.
Okay, so let me switch back to the screen share. And let me know if you're able to see. Can you guys see my screen? Azure portal?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to set up my first VM, which is going to be our Active Directory Domain Services VM, where I'm going to call it as a DC or DC VM. For that, I'm going to create a RG as on-prem. Okay, there's already one RG exists, so I will use that RG. Okay, and this is going to be DC VM. And I'm using the VVH IT solution subscription. I'm not using the MCT subscription that we have, given access to you. So it will be in East West location. And I don't want any availability set. This is the one standalone machine. So this security is going to be standard. And I'm going to choose Windows Server 2016 operating system. And since it is the data center, I think I'll go with the 16 GB RAM. and I'm going to allow the all default ports, but in the real time, we will not enable this. While we are talking about the virtual machine topic, so I'm going to explain each and every component or options what you see here. For now, we'll just create the one virtual machine. So since it is a domain controller, I want to just go with the premium SSD. I don't want to attach any existing disk. So I'm going to create a new virtual network. Um, so this is the name of the virtual network. This is the address range, and the subnet I'm going to say DC subnet. This is where I'm going to host my domain controller. I can create a new one where I'm gonna say this is going to be a VDI subnet. In future, I'm going to deploy VDI resources in this, and this is going to be 10.0.1.0/24. I can create as many subnets as I want based on the address space I've given here. Click OK here. Then I'm going to have a public IP. So this is going to be the public IP which I'm going to use it. It is going to be a standard, and assignment is static. And for the network security group, I'm going to create the new network security group. So this is the name of the network security groups. I would say I will give the generic name instead of giving the DCVM name for this energy. I'm going to say this is the prod NSG example, right? And here I'm allowing only RDP port, no other ports are allowed as inbound connectivity. And these all are the features we think which are optional. We can just go with the default options and create the virtual machine.
Hello.
Yeah, Vinod, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so one question here, subnet and all those. So these concepts, do we need to know like thoroughly?
It will be good if you know that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like you are going to define everything. If you're an architect, then definitely you need to know about it. But in general, right? So it's not required for the administrator,
Okay.
because when when you get a request, you will always receive the subnet information and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to worry about it. But it's better if you know basics of networking, um, IP addressing, subnetting, and all. It's not always mandatory here.
Okay. Okay. So like, do we have any resources you can share so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can go
definitely.
through?
I will share one YouTube link, and that
Mm-hmm.
is really good. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so he's gonna explain very well about this IP addressing and all.
Okay, okay. And one more thing, I just want to like request you regarding the last lab which we had, right? So like some other day you can walk us through like by doing and I think by your own like, so the new guys who may be having the issue to understand that thing, so we can understand that one.
Yeah, yeah. Few folks already reached out to me about that.
Mhm.
So I think we did everything except the use cases that I mentioned, right? As an assignment, user one, user two, user three. But otherwise, the VM creation and all, right, load balancer and all, I'm going to explain.
Okay.
The VM creations and keeping them in the same availability set and installing IAs. I will be teaching. I just gave as a uh, lab so that you know how to research and how to implement it. But we have a dedicated session for that topic. So, so any questions with respect to the scenario one, user one invite, user two, user three scenario, right? Is if anybody find difficulties, we can do the lab, because that is pretty much easy. I think almost everybody have done it. In case if anybody find issues, then we can definitely implement that entire scenario. And the scenario two is like inviting the guest users. I think we were able to do that in the last session. We spent good amount of time to understand how it works. And the scenario three is something that I'm going to definitely implement it. Okay. So
Okay.
anybody has an issue with the scenario one and not able to understand, you still need help, just let me know. We can find some time tomorrow and implement it. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kamal.
Yeah. Anybody have any issues? Just ping it in the WhatsApp group, then we can definitely implement it. Okay. All right, team. Okay, so the VM is created, the DC VM is created, and I'm going to connect to this machine.
Kamal, one more
Yeah, go ahead.
thing. So, like while creating these VMs and all, so what will be like a standard naming convention which we should use? So,
Yeah,
any like
so
guideline?
yes, definitely. I'm going to talk about it. We have not reached to that stage at the moment. We have a session, planned session. We are going to talk about it. Everything
Okay.
that the naming standard, what is the best practice, why we need multiple subscriptions, why we need multiple resource groups, all those things, and how many resources you will have in your environment, how many subscriptions you will have it, how many resource groups you have it, how many you handled. So these are like a couple of interview questions as well. So we will be talking about them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So right now what we are learning is we are learning about Azure AD and how users are getting provision, what are the different methods of creating the user accounts, and what we see in the real time is what we are discussing. So we learned about Azure AD and its permissions, Azure subscription, its permissions, how you invite the users from a subscription level, how you invite users from the Azure AD level, and how you create user accounts in the Azure AD and give them access in a subscription level, and how you give permissions in Azure AD level. Now we are trying to learn how users accounts from on-premises AD will be synchronized to Azure AD, and which is a common scenario in every organization. Right. So how they access it, why we need to do, right, why we have to synchronize, also we learned, right, why we have to synchronize on-prem AD use to Azure AD. That also we learned in last session. So that we are trying to implement it. So in the real time, you don't implement this. I mean, you don't get an opportunity to implement it. So unless, it's very new setup where you need to implement it. But in general, you don't need to learn about creating this domain controller and installing the AD Connect and configuring it, because it's going to be existing setup. When you join a company, it might be already there. In case if they want to set up similar environment, you are not alone there, right? So there will be an architect or there will be senior resources. It's like combined, everybody sit together and plan for this, and they will try to implement it. Okay, so everything what you're learning is just to get into the platform. Okay, if somebody asks you, do you know what is Azure AD and what is Azure AD Connect? Now you are going to be confident. Okay, I know Azure AD and we synchronize in our on-premise environment. And you are going to tell this is how the setup is already exist. We have on-prem AD, and there is a tool called AD Connect. This is already installed, and we are synchronizing them to Azure AD, and this is a process we are following to synchronize it. And if there are any issues, we get a ticket, and we kind of go and log into the tool and try to check the logs, try to troubleshoot. This is what we do it. Sometimes users complain that they're not able to see the subscription, they're not able to access the VM, or they're not able to see the resource group, they're not able to perform the operations. So I just go and check in the Azure portal what level of access he has given. Is he part of any group? Is that group having right permissions? So you need to create a story out of it, whatever you have learned, right? So that is a point we are trying to, reach actually. Got it?
Yeah, thank you.
So once we are done with this, we will talk about subscription. As I explained yesterday in the call, our future plan of learning, we will talk about subscription management and how do you handle things in the subscription level. And yesterday you learn how to create a ticket with Microsoft also. And you are going to say that, sometimes I work with Microsoft. We have a standard support plan, we have premium support plan. I'm going to explain that too, right? So you're going to explain that to your interviewers, and here we work with Microsoft, this is how they respond, this is how we will work with them. So you eventually are going to prove that you are an experienced person. Okay. Got it?
Yeah.
All right. And are we good now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, team. So to set up the AD, I think most of you guys already know. And for the people who are very new, so you need to, for Windows Server, there it is a server operating system which provides the capabilities of, many services. So to learn what are the services and how to enable the services, we have to go to Server Manager. Under the dashboard, you see a welcome page and you see add roles and features. This is where you'll get started. And when you click on this, you see this page, and this is where you are selecting the server. And these are the roles what we have it, which means the server operating system is capable of delivering these many features. These many roles it can handle it. Okay. And each role has sub features, and that you will see in the next stage, next step, next page. Okay, what we are focusing more on Active Directory domain services. This is where we are going to create our identity in the on-premise environment and create user accounts in the on-premises. So I'm going to say add Active Directory domain services, add required features. If I go to the next, you see the feature selection. There are many features that are required to enable Active Directory domain services are by default chosen. You don't need to learn what kind of features I have to enable if I want to create Active Directory domain services. So it's automatically taken care. Just click on next. And this is giving you information about the tool that we are talking. So it's saying that you can also synchronize this user accounts to Azure AD using Azure AD Connect tool. So we'll learn that soon. I'm going to install this role. This is little bit of time consuming process. So it might go beyond 1 hour today. We just want to establish the sync, then disconnect for today. And tomorrow session, we are going to see the users and we are going to give them access. And we'll also see what logs you have to review if the sync is not happening, if the users are not synchronized to cloud. Okay.
Sure.
And you might have a question, how do I implement this? If you want to do this lab, what you need to do is you can create a VM in Azure in your subscription and you can follow the same steps. Okay. The only thing what you cannot do is I already have the a domain purchase from GoDaddy. So that's why I just go with the verified domain. You can say that you don't have a verified domain and just synchronize them normally. I will show you which stage that option comes. Not at this moment. While installing the Azure AD Connect tool, you will see that option.
Okay.
So Kamal, we need to search for this server manager in our laptop.
Not laptop. This is on a server. I created a server, if you remember, a few minutes ago, right? I created this machine. I took a remote connection of the server. Yesterday, I've shown you how to connect to the VM, right? Through remote desktop connection. The same way I connected, as soon as I connected, I got this window. And from here, I had an option called add roles and features. That's how I enabled it. Okay, clear? So the role is enabled. And if you look at this, in the top right, you see the pop-up which says promote this server as a domain controller. So we are going to promote the server to a domain controller. And to do that, we have to click on that option. And the next option is going to be forest. This is going to be our first domain in our environment. So I'm going to say for new forest. If you already have existing domain and you want to add a new domain controller in it, then you see other options. And this is more of a core Windows Server administration, Active Directory administration, which you don't need to worry. As I said, you are not going to deal with it, and you don't get access to do these operations as well. Okay, I'm just trying to show you how the organization setup is going to looks like. vvhitsolutions.com. I'm going to give the same domain name as what I have in the Azure AD, and which I already have in GoDaddy. Okay, so this is where you're going to provide the password for this domain controller. In case if the domain controller database is corrupted, you can use this DSRM mode and try to restore some directory information. So it will take some time to load. So let's wait for a few seconds. Yeah, so now this is highlighted. I'm going to give the password. Usually your IT team usually do these operations. So that's why when you when you join any company, so you will have your user ID password ready by your IT team, and they create on this Active Directory domain services. So you are going to create a couple of user accounts, and like the way you get you get your IT team creates for you. So we are almost done with the setup. So once we install, I think it's gonna reboot. Once the reboot is completed, we will be ready with the Active Directory domain services. So meanwhile, I'll install the Google Chrome just for easy authentication and administration. Install it. So this takes some time, guys, couple of seconds more. So meanwhile, I'm trying to log into Azure portal. And if you go to Azure AD Connect on Azure AD, so you can learn more about these features. And meanwhile, we'll try to download the Azure AD Connect tool.
Kamal, we are doing all these operations on the VM we created.
Yes, correct. So the Active Directory domain service are installed, and it is asking us to restart the server. It's going to restart. Let me download this. It's already restarted automatically. So everything that I'm doing here on the DCVM, assuming this is on my on-premises, I have my data center somewhere in some other location, and I have connected to the server through remote connection and trying to install it. Since we don't have the on-premises, I'm just creating this lab on Azure itself. Any confusions here, team?
So Kamal, connectivity remains the same, right? As means when we are connecting from on-premises and what we are doing. So everything remains same.
Yes, it is same. So the server is rebooted successfully, and I'm connecting again through RDP. So, and what I'm going to do, so far you have accounts created in Azure AD, right? I'm going to delete everybody access now. We are going to create these accounts in the on-premises. Okay, so around 59 users got created here. I'm going to delete access for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to delete access for everybody. And even the group also, which I created, I'm going to delete that group. So you will not have access to Azure portal now. What we are going to do is we are going to synchronize these users to Azure AD, and you should be able to access from there. Okay, so this is fine. Now you all not part of the subscriptions or VHIT solutions now. So just assuming that you recently joined, and I'm going to give you access to subscriptions. Okay. So this is still loading. Let's wait for some more time. Once it is loaded, I'm going to create a I'm going to I'm going to create user accounts and giving you access to take RDP to the server. And if you want to look at the options, you can look at, and we'll also install the tool so that user accounts can be synchronized to the cloud. This is for the first time login, so it takes some time, guys. It is still stuck at this stage. Maybe it will take a minute. Is everybody able to follow or any confusions here?
No, fine.
Akhil,
Kamal.
are you fine?
Yeah, yes, Kamal.
Mohana, Bhagyasri?
Uh,
Yep. Tell me.
when you connect to the AD, the all users and password will be the same. No, Kamal.
Yeah. So whatever I'm going to
Yeah,
create an AAD, so the same UCID
yeah,
password will be used.
yeah.
It's called password hash sync. So we are going to synchronize the same.
Okay.
Okay, finally we are into the server. And now our task is the step one is to create user accounts for you guys. So I'm going to create a couple of user accounts and will give you access. Then later somebody is going to contribute to create a new remaining user accounts. So to open that, you can just search here Active Directory, users and computers. If it is not showing up like this, you can just type dsa.msc. So it's going to open this console. And in this console, go to view and click on advanced features, expand this. So here you have multiple organization units. What you see in the left side, we call it as organization units. It's kind of a directories. So let us create one directory. So just assume this is like a organization. Let's say this one, cloud users. And in this, I'm going to create a user accounts. Right click, go to the new user. And here we can provide the username. Let's say Akhil. And his username will be Akhil. Okay, and password I'm going to give. Okay, this is the normal user account got created. Later we can provide information like, what is his description, telephone number, email ID, and his address, account, profile. If I go to the profile, and if I go to the organization, what is his job title, who's his manager, department, company. So everything what your IT team is going to create. So you are able to see that here. So as I say, that's why you are not going to do these tasks. Since we need a real environment, so I'm setting up this for you. Okay. So since he's just a user, he cannot take a remote connection to the server. So I should be adding him to the remote desktop users group. Remote desktop users. And I want him to perform some admin related activities. So I'm going to say administrators. He's part of administrators group and apply for it. Okay. Similarly, I'm going to create another user account. So if I do copy, so the same settings will be replicated to the new account which I'm creating. Let's say I'm creating for Mohana. And giving the password. And if I open this, so Mohana already is part of this groups. That's a good thing with the copy option. I'm going to add Mohana to domain administrators group and enterprise administrator group so that she can perform various operations. Okay. All right, so I can log in with Mohana account to the server and perform all the operations if needed. So, so what I can do is I can just copy her UPN. This is the UPN, right? Yeah. Okay, let me disconnect from here and log in with her account. Copying the IP address, and here I'm going to say, instead of Azure user, I'm going to say Mohan, right? And click on connect. So likewise, you get access to IT in your environment as well, right? So somebody joined and your IT team provide access to them, and this is how it goes. So if I expand this, and she can see all the users, and she can create a new user account. She's administrator now. If I launch this tool, Chrome, I don't think she'll be able to see the credentials which I used to log into my, yeah. Okay, so this is how the users log in and do the activities. So let me, I think I already downloaded or not. Download Azure AD Connect. This is the tool I'm downloading. So meanwhile, I will try to log in to the portal again. Okay, so I'm installing this tool. So here you should be very careful. So there are two options to install this tool. One is Express setting, the other one is the customize settings. I'm going to choose customize settings now. And Express settings will not give you more options to configure the tool. So going with the customize settings, and this is what the options what we have, the installation location. If you want to use the custom installation location, you can specify. Otherwise, it's going to install in this location. And if you this basically needs a SQL server because it has to store the database information, like how many users are synchronized and how many are got created. So it has to maintain some database. So that's why it needs a SQL server. If you already have a SQL server in your environment, you can just provide that. Otherwise, it creates a new database inside this server. So it also create a service account. If you already have existing service account, you want to use it, you can use it. Otherwise, you can just keep it as a default. So as part of this tool installation, it's going to create a 4 groups. One is administrator group, operators group, browse group, and a password reset group. So this is useful this is used by the tool while the synchronization is happening. So if you already have groups created and you want to use them, you can just specify this. So if you already have a existing Azure AD Connect tool and these settings already configured, you want to import them, you can just specify the location of that tool. So it can just import those settings. Right now, I will go with the default options and click on install.
Kamal, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Kamal, the SQL server is not a licensed one here, right? What it is installing?
Yeah, it's not a licensed one.
something, a small package, right? Like,
Yeah, it's I think developer or below the Express, I think Express edition.
okay.
That
Okay.
should be fine.
Yeah, thank you. Kamal, I missed one thing here. What is the fourth option, specific custom sync groups here?
So basically it creates a 4 groups. Okay. So those 4 groups are used by this sync tool. So one is administrator groups, browse group, and operators group, and this password reset groups. So that will be created by default by this tool. In case if you want to specify it, if you already have couple of groups which you can use them for that scenario, and you can just specify those groups names there. That's what it is saying.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what the user sign-in method, and Akhil was mentioning, can I use the same user ID password which is created in my on-premises AD to log into Azure AD and Azure subscription or all cloud applications? So based on the option that we are choosing here, we are going to experience it. So password hash synchronization is the one which we are going to implement it. So basically the username and password is being synchronized to Azure AD, and the details are stored in Azure AD. So this is the option which we choose it, and both the user ID password are synchronized to Azure AD. The password synchronization or copy is not a plain text, it's going to be a encrypted format. That's why there's a hash synchronization here. Okay, so the advantage with this option is, in case if your on-premises AD server is down, and still users can log into Azure AD because the credentials are already stored in Azure AD. Okay, now the scenario is like, you have reset the password here in on-premises. Okay, and the password has to synchronize to Azure AD to update the new password, right? And this tool won't sync continuously. So there is a time interval, 15 minutes or 1 hour, maybe 30 minutes. There is some interval. So within that time, if user is trying to log in, the old password only will be used for login. Okay, in Azure AD or for authentication. The new password is not synchronized yet, right? It will synchronize the next cycle. So sometimes the scenarios could be like, let's say, the user is terminated. Okay, and it will take 30 minutes or 1 hour to synchronize to the cloud. Within that time, the user can log into the cloud applications and Azure subscriptions, though his account is terminated in the on-premises. That is the only disadvantage with this password hash synchronization. Otherwise, this is a perfect solution. And some customers think that, the synchronizing the password hash may be still not a secure method. So with those concerns, couple of companies, couple of organizations do not prefer this option. But I would say we can just go ahead and do this option, use this option. Okay, so that's about the password hash synchronization. And one more thing I want to add, in case if the user is terminated, most of the times your Azure AD administrators, what they do is they do the force synchronization so that the password is immediately updated in the, or the user operation is immediately updated in the cloud also. If it is terminated in the on-premises, it's immediately terminated in the cloud as well. So user cannot log in. So, but that is a manual operation. Your admin has to do it manually. I will show you how to do that as well. Sometimes you have to do it because as part of your day-to-day operations, your on-premise AD team will say this user account was terminated, and we need to terminate the same account in the cloud as well. So either you can give them a command, or you can just log into the server and execute it. So as part of our tomorrow session, we are going to implement this one. Okay. And what is pass-through authentication? PTA, right? PTA also is being used, mostly used by multiple multiple companies. So PDA basically what it will do is it will synchronize the user to the Azure AD. Password is still is managed by your on-premises Active Directory. Let's say if Akhil or Mohana is joining logging into Azure portal with their on-premises username. So Azure AD will detect based on the email ID, right? The username which is given, right, at the time of sign in. Let's say Mohan at vvhitsolutions.com. So the vvhitsolution.com is belongs to this Active Directory. So based on that domain name, Azure AD will redirect the request back to the on-premises AD and say that Mohana is trying to access. Can you validate her password? So AD is going to validate the password and give the token to the Azure AD so that Azure AD can allow the access to the Azure subscription and resources. So in this case, if on-premise AD is down, Azure AD cannot validate the password. So Mohana cannot log into the Azure resources or cloud resources. So that is a downtime situation with the PTA solution. But this is pretty much good solution as well. Only thing is, if on-premise environment is down because of the network issues or any other restrictions, users cannot log in or applications cannot authenticate with the on-prem AD. Okay, that's another one. So federation with ADFS, basically it's a Active Directory Federation service. So it's one of the role of your Active Directory domain server as a Windows server. If you go to Windows Server, add roles and features, you see ADFS is one of the role. And this basically stores the identity of your information. So whenever a user is trying to log into any application with their user ID and the request will be redirected to ADFS server, ADFS server will in turn return back to the AD and AD will authenticate the user ID password and give a token to ADFS and ADFS will give authentication to access to the end user. So that's a process. So if you already have ADFS or if you already have an account in Ping Federate, both function the similar way. ADFS is something your IT team manages it. Ping Federate is an organization which provide this federation services. So if you have any one of them, you can choose that. But right now, this decision is not something that you are going to make it. This is being taken care by your IT team, and you already have this. So in this lab, we are going to choose the password hash synchronization. In case if somebody asks you, do you already have Azure AD Connect? You can say yes, we are using the password hash synchronization for the user signing into the cloud environment. Users with the on-prem AD user accounts, they can log into the cloud applications. Cloud applications can be Office 365, Azure subscription, or Azure AD, or anything, right? So, and here I'm going to enable single sign-on, which means once the user is logged into the trusted device, with the Azure AD credentials, he'll be able to access all cloud applications automatically. If you have verified your domain with your domain GoDaddy or any Azure AD, then you can select this option. Otherwise, you can just unselect this option. Okay, so I'm going next here. And this is where I have to provide the Azure AD Global Administrator credentials. And let me first log in and going to Azure AD. And let me see users who has global admin rights now. The support has permissions. Yeah, I have global admin rights here, but I don't know whether I can use this account or I should use the account which has on Microsoft.com domain name. Okay, so what I will do is I think I should use this, but let me just try to use the support at vvhitsolutions.com. And in case if we see any errors, we'll use the other account. It's trying to connect. Make sure that the account is having the global admin permissions. Okay, that's good. The authentication happened successfully. Now I have to authenticate with my on-premises AD. So on the on-premises AD, I have two users, Mohana having full access, like enterprise admin, domain admin account, credentials and all. But Akhil has access to servers through to take RDP, and he has access to the local administrators group. So I'm going to use like Akhil account because we have to use this account to connect. So I'm going to use Akhil account here, use existing account and password. Here I have to provide the domain name. Okay, it's validated successfully. Going to the next stage. And if you look at this, the vvhitsolutions.com domain on the cloud is verified domain. So that's why it's giving this option. Otherwise, it will give you a warning saying the domain is not verified. Are you good to continue? You should say, yes, I would like to continue further, though it is not verified domain. Okay. And I will show you, don't worry, how to verify the domain with your domain providers like GoDaddy. So this is where you're going to specify, do you want to synchronize all the users or a specific OUs? If I want to synchronize only the cloud users, because in the organization, there can be thousands of users and not everybody need to have access to the cloud platform, right? Maybe if I say cloud users, only the cloud users will be synchronized to the Azure. But right now, I don't want to do that. I'll just go with the all users and domains and OUs. And this is like uniquely identified users in your organization. So we can go with one default option because we only have one domain, which is vvhitsolutions.com. In case if you want to specifically synchronize only few groups or a few users, you can specify that also. But right now I'm going with the default options. So Azure AD apps, password write back, group write back, all these options you have it. So these options we can enable. Let us say the user account Akhil is synchronized to the cloud, which is actually created in on-premises AD. In case if I reset the password in the cloud for Akhil, the password has to synchronize back to the on-premises AD. So this option will help you, and this option by default won't be available. This available for the, you know, directories which has the premium version, right? Since we know they enable the premium version P2 for our directory, so we are able to see this features and it should be working. Even in case group write back, if you want to enable group write back, you can also select this. So I'm going with the next step where I have to configure the single sign-on. While configuring single sign-on, I have to provide the domain admin credentials. That is where I'm going to use the Mohana credentials. So enter credentials and specify Mohana account. Okay, credentials are authenticated and I'll go ahead and install this tool. So this tool usually automatically already configured by your IT team or your identity team. So you nothing to worry, but you need to know these options. So that's why I'm showing you this. If somebody asks you what is password hash sync, you should be able to explain. And other than that, I think nobody asks you anything from these options. So they only ask you, okay, how do you synchronize, which tool you use it, and what is password hash sync, what is pass-through authentication. So difference between those two, which we just discussed. And what if the synchronization is not happening? Users complaining that they are not able to access subscription, they're not able to log into the cloud. So what do you do? What kind of steps you follow? That we will discuss in upcoming sessions, okay? Any questions so far?
No, Kamal, I think I missed last 10-15 minutes. I will go to the recording. I'll let you know if anything I need to know tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I was in some other call. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, fine. Yeah, we're almost done, just less than 5 minutes. We are going to end this discussion. And Mohana and Akhil, so if you guys have some time, Can you create an account for other team members by logging into the server and following the same approach? Any one of you? Or if anybody else want to contribute, I'm happy to give access.
I can help.
You know that I know you can do it.
Okay, yeah, let's do somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, so like L1 engineers.
No worries. Yeah.
I already have a confidence on you, Praveen. L2 plus.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Okay, Akhil don't want to do it. He's not talking.
No, Kamal. I'm not like that.
Just kidding, okay?
Yeah.
I know your health is
Let's.
not good.
I want to try. If it is gone right, I will do it. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, team, I think this will take some time. In case if you guys want to drop off, you can drop off. Once this is synchronized, I will end the recording, okay? It's up to you guys.
Kamal, this user synchronization will happen for all the users in the on-premise AD or for a particular specific OUs?
Right now it is for everybody. So you can
Okay.
select a particular OU also. So we had an option. You missed that point.
Oh, possibly I missed that.
Yeah. Okay, so whoever is interested to set up this environment, so I'll give RDP access to this server. Once you log in, just right click and create a new user accounts in the cloud users group, and that should be fine. You don't need to you don't need to give them RDP access anything. Maybe you can just right click on this account and copy and create a user accounts. They will be automatically synchronized to the cloud. And once it is synchronized, you will be able to see them under the Azure Active Directory, the way you used to see earlier. And now you can see they are synchronizing already. I mean, there are accounts. You see on-premises sync, wherever you see yes, it is like synchronized. Okay. And what you also have to do is an on-premises, you create a one group here, right click and create a group. Let's say AD group, and it's universal group, security group, and add everybody to this group. Let's say add members, and like this, everybody has to be added over we are creating the new users. So once it is created, it will also be synchronized to the cloud. And once it's synchronized to the cloud, go to the group and to give them the access as a global administrator, and later go to subscription and maybe you let me know once you create a group. I will give initially access to, okay, I'll give access to one of the user, and you can add access to the entire group here. Similarly, they have to have access to the EMS E5 license and Microsoft Team Explorer licenses. So they should be having access to this too as well. Okay, so whoever is going to do it, you have to follow this. Okay, the
Sorry, Kamal.
sync is completed. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to log into my account. It's saying the password is incorrect.
It won't
Can you
work.
please-
It won't work, right? I deleted everybody account. I'm
Oh,
going to
no,
give a new
yeah,
credentials.
yeah,
You need to
okay.
log into this server first, create
I
all
thought
the
you give
user
the
account.
same credential to that one.
No, it will take some time to reflect in the cloud. Okay, we just install the tool. It will take some time to reflect in the cloud. So it is just installed and it will start synchronizing the user accounts. You will slowly see, you can see here, your account is exist here. Now you can try to log into the portal.azure.com, and the password I'm going to ping you one-to-one. Got it?
Come on, I got it.
Okay, 1 second. I pinged you password in WhatsApp. Just use that password and username as akil@vbhitsolutions.com and log into Azure portal. And I'm going to give you as a global administrator. And I will also give you access to one of the subscription. So create a group on on-premises. Once it's synchronized, you have to give them access here as a owner.
Come on.
Okay, you should be able to see subscription also as a owner.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, team. And I think it is synchronized. Even if I go to synchronization service here, just search in synchronized service in the server that we create and the server we have, I think it's just stopped it. Services. Azure AD Connect. Yeah, it is running only. Yeah, it will take some time to show up. We will review troubleshooting part in tomorrow's session. Right now, these two accounts and this group will be synchronized to the cloud. What you need to do is in on-premises, you have to create user accounts here and add them to this group. And later you have to add the group to the global admin and to the subscription as a owner. That's a task for you, okay? And later just confirm in the group, everybody will try to access and see if they are able to access or not. If they see any problem, we'll look into it tomorrow session. Okay. All right, team. Thank you. Any questions?
No, Kamal. No, Kamal. So like we'll go through this recording once, and yeah, if there is any question, then we'll get back to you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And let's discuss in the group chat. If any question, even if it is small question, let us discuss. All right. Bye, guys.
Sure. Thank you.